Welcome to the SVG-TV news for Thursday, November 11th. I'm Khalil Kato with the details. There have been 2 more deaths from COVID-19 recorded here, bringing the death toll from the viral illness to 71. The latest victims are a 59-year-old male who tested positive on October 28th and died on November 6th of COVID-19 pneumonia. The deceased was unvaccinated. The other person is a 90-year-old female who tested positive for COVID-19 and also died yesterday of COVID-19 pneumonia. The deceased was partially vaccinated and had underlying conditions. Meanwhile, 37 new positive cases were reported from 178 samples collected on Tuesday, resulting in a positivity rate of 20.8%. 15 positive rapid antigen results were also reported on Tuesday from flu clinics. There are currently 12 patients admitted for COVID-19 at the Argyle Isolation Facility. 11 of these patients are unvaccinated and 1 is partially vaccinated. 17 patients have been admitted to the Milton Cater Memorial Hospital COVID-19 wards. 15 of these are unvaccinated and 2 are partially. No new recoveries were noted over the reporting period. 1,161 cases are currently active. 5,204 cases of COVID-19 and 3,972 recoveries have been recorded in St. Vincent and the Grenadines since March 2020. Today, Port Kingstown welcomed its first cruise ship in over a year after the industry was hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. The MV Britannia, one of the world's leading luxury cruise ships, docked with over 3,600 passengers and a crew of 1,398. Communications Manager in the Ministry of Tourism and Culture, Jolene Charles Scott, told SVG-TV News that for the 2021 cruise tourism season, SVG is expecting a total of 288 cruise calls.
There are 13 inaugural calls and 23 same-day and port calls. So these 13 inaugural calls are quite significant, especially in the light of what is happening in this unprecedented time. It tells us that St. Vincent and the Grenadines is truly one of the most sought after Caribbean destination, and we can proudly say that we are the Caribbean that many are looking for. And we are happy to be able to serve our visitors and at the same time to increase revenue for our locals.
In light of the COVID-19 pandemic, there are cruise bubbles that are made to accommodate only vaccinated persons. The cruise at the Tourism and Culture Communications Manager spoke on the different bubble sites, noting that these sites will come alive for all of the cruise calls.
There will be cultural entertainment. For example, botanical gardens will have the art in action, who will display their craft and art, and there'll be entertainment at various sites. And this is in an effort to bring our sites alive. Most of our sites will be bright and alive, and we look forward to a successful cruise season, because we all know that last year we basically had zero. We had 0 cruise calls, and we know the ripple effect that has upon our country and our people. So we are looking forward to a bright and better cruise season for 2021 and beyond.
Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves joined his fellow Blue Guardians, the Prime Ministers from the Kingdom of Tonga, Belize, and Sao Tome and Principe, and the President of the Republic of Seychelles, in a call to action for ocean energy for resilient economies and the establishment of the Global Ocean Energy Alliance, GOEA, at the United Nations Convention on Climate Change Conference of the Parties, COP26, taking place in Glasgow, Scotland. The GOEA will be launched at the United Nations Ocean Conference, which is scheduled to run from June 27th to July 1st, 2022 in Lisbon, Portugal, a country which Prime Minister Gonsalves said has some ancestral familial connections to him.
We can and we will provide clean energy for our people using ocean energy. We can and we have attracted partners and investors, but we need more support. Ocean energy has long been the ignored renewable, despite its vastness and its multiple sources of energy options. Let us answer this call to action, including particularly the private sector. We must answer this call because ocean energy is a major winner, perhaps the winner, for SIDS and coastal cities in the race to resilience.
PM Gonzalez elaborated on the Blue Guardians, who in 2015 executed the Blue Guardian program, which is seen as critical for climate change adaptation and resilience for small island developing states. He thanked the leaders who continue to pass the baton of the program each year.
Than our brother from the Seychelles. While the Blue Guardians program is a $40 million pilot program that is expected to be supported by the Green Climate Fund, the Global Ocean Energy Alliance is what it says it is, global. We know that the development and deployment of ocean energy technologies that are SIDS appropriate is going to be a major challenge, requiring hundreds of millions of dollars in financing from non-state actors who, under the United Nations-backed Race to Resilience campaign, will focus on helping frontline communities to build resilience and adapt to the impacts of climate change, such as extreme heat, drought, flooding, and sea level rise.
Speaking on the high ambitions for the Global Ocean Energy Alliance, Prime Minister Gonzalez said the governments are working hard to ensure that they do all to provide the right and the enabling environment for investing in the ocean industry.
For the Global Ocean Energy Alliance are high. The Blue Guardians program has taught us that while patience in developing our programs with supportive and committed partners is central to implementation, financing is what gets the race started. In the case of the Blue Guardians program, all the private sector partners who came on as supporters are still committed 6 years after its launch. I understand that a proposal is to be submitted to the Green Climate Fund sometime next year. This program is being executed by the SIDS-DOC Secretariat, our SIDS-DOC partner, Grid Arendal from Norway, and the United Nations Environment Program, UNEP. Over the last 6 years, as had been projected, things have gotten worse for SIDS. And that is why we have placed an urgency on ocean energy. Time is running out much faster than anyone can predict. And the deaths and destruction are rising more rapidly than we can process.
SVG is being represented at COP26 by a delegation led by Minister of Tourism, Culture and Sustainable Development, Carlos James, who is also responsible for climate change-related matters in SVG. The deepening of bilateral relations between St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the Republic of Indonesia has taken an important step with the official signing of a grant agreement to support students' mobility in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. SVG's ambassador to the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, His Excellency Andreas Wickham, signed the agreement on behalf of the government of SVG in the presence of His Excellency Mimam Edi Mulyono, Ambassador-designate of Indonesia to SVG. The official signing, which took place on Monday, November 1st, in the Embassy of Indonesia in Caracas, Venezuela, will trigger the transfer of approximately $118,500 from the government of Indonesia for the purchase of a school bus to assist in the transportation of students in SVG. The grant agreement is one of 3 initiatives being pursued with the government of Indonesia within the framework of cooperation between both countries, and all are being coordinated by the embassies of both countries in Caracas. Negotiations are also said to be in an advanced stage on a basic economic and technical cooperation agreement, as well as an agreement on visa exemption for holders of diplomatic and official passports. Both draft agreements are being finalized for official signing shortly. St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the Republic of Indonesia established diplomatic relations on the 30th of November 1993 and will celebrate the 28th anniversary of this milestone during this month. Both countries have had a history of cooperation on issues of mutual interest at the United Nations and other multilateral forums. And Vietnamese Ambassador Le Viet Duyen presented President Nguyen Xuan Phuc's credentials to SVG's Governor General, Her Excellency Dame Susan Duggan, via video conference yesterday, affirming that Vietnam always values developing ties with SVG. Ambassador Duyen expressed his belief that the credential presentation ceremony will lay a foundation to boast bilateral ties in various areas, especially in trade, investment, culture, tourism, agriculture, and education. The Vietnamese ambassador pledged to do his best to further lift the bilateral relationships between SVG and Vietnam to a greater height. Expressing her wish to further reinforce bilateral links with Vietnam, Her Excellency suggested that Vietnamese investors should invest in apparel in SVG. Vietnam and St. Vincent and the Grenadines established bilateral diplomatic ties on December 18, 1995. Both sides have worked closely together within the United Nations Security Council UNSC framework. SVG actively joined in discussions in April 2021 when Vietnam served as rotating UNSC chair. Following the La Soufrière volcanic eruption, the Vietnamese government donated $50,000 to the government and people of SVG to help with the recovery efforts. We're still on the local scene, and we hear that with concern for the nation's children, President of the SVG Teachers Union, Oswald Robinson, is urging omnibus operators to continue to adhere to the COVID-19 protocols. Speaking with SVG-TV News earlier this week, Robinson also appealed to passengers to do their part to create a safe environment while commuting on omnibuses.
Go and run down minivans, you understand? Because I don't want anybody to come and attack me, you know. But I think I have a voice as representing a union. I have concern about children and their safety in traveling. I just want the guys there to be reasonable in what you do. If there's a certain number you're supposed to carry, as much as possible, try to do so. And the commuters, the people who travel with you, they must also be cooperative, because sometimes they see the vans already full and they're still pushing themselves to go in to create a problem, and then the minivans will have to encounter the police at some time. You can't take the police for granted. It may appear to know that they're not really, say, using my words very carefully, it may appear as if they're not really paying much attention, but you never know when they may show up on you. So you have to be always prepared.
The Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force is also appealing to the operators of public transportation to continue to adhere to the protocols and guidelines which have been established as part of the country's national response to COVID-19. The latest appeal was made by Constable Kalim Woods during the Traffic Highlights program aired on NBC Radio. Constable Woods said public transport can play its part in reducing the spread of COVID-19 by complying with the guidelines. He is also reminding omnibus operators about the number of passengers they are allowed to carry during this time.
Motorists, especially the owners of public transport on a whole, the COVID-19 rule still is in effect. The 18-seater omnibus are allowed to carry 75% of what they normally carry, which is 12 passenger, driver and conductor make 14, and the 26-seater, 19 passenger, driver and conductor make 21, and for the taxi, which is registered to carry 7 passengers, allowed to carry 5 seated passengers in the vehicle.
The head of the Salvation Army here in SVG is encouraging nationals to follow all COVID-19 protocols and take all necessary precautions to protect themselves from COVID-19, which has claimed 71 lives in the country to date. Captain Ernest Gashelin told SVG-TV News that he is concerned for the health of the people of SVG, especially in this pandemic.
Encourage people to remember COVID is still alive. All right, do whatever we have to do to remain alive. We will not want to hear anybody pass away because of COVID. So whatever we have to do, we think is the best for you. Let's do it so that we can remain alive.
Speaking on the challenges facing the operations of the Salvation Army, Captain Gashelin said they are still awaiting the court case to be heard on the burglary which took place at the church last year, in which thousands of dollars were stolen.
Apart from the break-in, it's okay. You know, sometimes people might come, you don't have to give, but that's part of it. But up to this morning we give. You know, just last week, I believe somebody came from all the way from a back way. The man asked us, so we do that. And during the volcanic eruption, we've been to different locations. You know, as I said, from the 11th of April to the end of July. We cook and we distribute it, go carry to the shelters and some other locations as well. Who maybe in private homes as well, we carry food to them. And so that it was a great opportunity to serve people.
Gashelin used the opportunity to encourage those who continue to lend support to the Salvation Army, even in these difficult times.
To say a big thanks, to all who have been supporting us, locally, overseas. So we pray that God will continue to bless you. And those who are overseas as well, who may not be able to put in the pot, you can send us a check. We have an account. I will send you the information on your WhatsApp. So they can, do wire transfer to our account, and we will be very grateful to assist.
Youngsters who have a talent for writing and the performing and theatre arts are being encouraged to harness their skills. The encouragement comes from coordinator of the Theatre Arts Festival Committee, Sean Frederick, who said the Ministry of Culture can provide guidance on how they can take the next step in developing their talent.
And a lot of persons use theatre arts or performance arts as a hobby. We encourage them to take it seriously. Think of a number of career that that we can choose from to be in terms of the industry. But for those young people who are out there and are thinking of getting involved, yes, you can come to the Department of Culture and we would guide you, provide that counsel to you, and or refer you to a theatre organization that you can either become a member of or start your own group within your community, because there's so much some of these groups who are already in terms of their established group can do. And we are encouraging the startup of other groups within the community. We will provide the support of training, and once they're up to standard, once they're up to standard in terms of their organization and their ability to produce or attract a level of professionalism, which refers to a playwright, a professional playwriter, or anything of that nature, then we would then consider involving them in our National Theatre Arts Festival, which is mainly for the groups.
Frederick further spoke on how the creative and performing arts have contributed to the growth in the local tourism industry.
Also practitioners who for the love and the passion and for the growth of the industry provide that kind of service free of cost. The industry is growing in my opinion, because as a small country, I think in terms of our skill sets, we are on par with a number of other countries within the region and even internationally in terms of the ability of our performing artists. We also know the importance of the creative and cultural sector to the development of our tourism product, for socio-economic reasons.
Quincy Boyd of Otley Hall was jailed at Her Majesty's prisons for unlawful possession of a firearm and 6 rounds of ammunition. He was charged for having in his possession one Glock 43 9mm pistol and 6 rounds of 9mm ammunition at Arnisvale on August 1st. Boyd appeared before the Serious Offences Court today for trial and was found guilty of the offences. He was sentenced to 5 years and 6 months for unlawful possession of the firearm and 7 months for the unlawful possession of the ammunition. Both sentences will run concurrently. Meanwhile, the police have arrested and jointly charged Ulrich Stevens, a 35-year-old laborer of Georgetown, and Gregory Jacobs, a 45-year-old butcher of Sanssouci, with allegedly having in their possession a piece of rope, 2 cutlasses, a silver file, an empty feed sack, a black-handled knife, a flashlight, and a plastic covering used in the course of the offense of theft. The incident occurred at Rauruku on Monday, November 8th. The accused were additionally charged with handling stolen goods. Stevens allegedly had in his possession 10 pounds of beef, while Jacobs had 362 pounds of beef and 40 pounds of pork reasonably suspected of being stolen or unlawfully obtained at Sanssouci. Jacobs was further charged with allegedly knowing or believing a brown and black cattle head to be stolen goods he received dishonestly for his own benefit at Sanssouci between November 5th and November 8th. Both accused are expected to appear before the Serious Offences Court to answer to the charges.